Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast. Ozcast. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Singing in the car, not the rain, and an app developer reality game? Yes, these both do exist, exclusive to Apple Music. Plus, new wireless beats and Apple ads, short but sweet, in a Golden Master Apple Slice. So, a surprise announcement this week, WWDC 2017, except for this time it's in a new location, San Jose, in the McHenry Convention Center. So there's been no reason as to why not San Francisco again. And yeah, it turns out this is earlier than usual. We usually see this sort of invite around April. Is that sort of what you expect?
Yeah, I think I watched a video the other day that said the earliest announcement previously was on around April the 8th, which is obviously like more than a month and a half away from now. So it's a bit odd that it's a bit earlier than usual. It's the same ticketing method though. So it's just basically where there's a lottery for the tickets and developers sign up for getting their names drawn from the lottery. But the draw is also, I think last year it was about a week later or something like that. And now it's late March for the tickets. So yeah, it's a bit of an odd one, the whole situation.
I think the theory behind it is because of the location change, to give people that extra amount of time to get everything organized and, you know, for that different location, different city. So yeah, I mean, we're expecting the same sort of numbers of attendance and everything. And hey, it's cool that, you know, you can change to a different location, but yeah, bit of a surprise there. What did you think of the look of the actual invite? I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. I didn't gather any hints from the invites. I know with like iOS 7's invite, or that year, or that WWDC, it was sort of a flat design to indicate the design change, if I remember correctly. And usually Apple invites have a hint of some sort. So I can't pick up too much unless, like with all the people, the point is collaboration.
Yeah. And it's also interesting because, yeah, a lot of the previous invites have just been sort of graphical elements and that, whereas this is a whole bunch of different illustrations forming that, you know, using the negative space, which is a bit of a new design direction for their invite. So I'm very much on board with that. And yeah, excited to see what happens, obviously. So, all right, we're going to kick it off with product perception. Beats X finally come out. So yeah, tell everyone about this, Nick.
Yeah, so they were supposed to come out I think in October, and we're delayed till February. So it's the latest in the W1 series of earphones or headphones. So I think what's different about these is they in-ear earphones, and they have they're around the neck. They have a flex form cable. So I didn't pay too much attention to that wording or branding because it's basically it's their brand, right, for calling the cable. So I didn't really know what that was until it actually came out, and it's basically almost rigid, but it doesn't really lose its shape. It kind of sits in a U shape to sit around your neck, so you can bend it and things like that, but it will just spring back to that shape usually. So yeah, that's one thing which is different about them. So I haven't actually listened myself, but apparently the sound profile is surprisingly less bass than normal Beats earphones, and I'm not sure if this is a symptom of people automatically assuming Beats have a lot of bass, like they did when they were just rebranded Monster earphones and headphones. So I think that could be part of the reason. But so less bass, and then they're apparently louder than AirPods and slightly better quality. So yeah, I would love to listen at a point, but going from what I've seen, that's kind of the sound profile you can expect. They come with wingtips, which you can attach optionally. And so basically you just take off the little part that fits in your ear, and then you put it on the wingtip and then put the other part back on. And as I said earlier, they have the W1 chip, which means that they're really easy to connect. So you just hold or press the button on them to turn them on, and then it will pop up on your iPhone as with all the other W1 chips earphones. And you basically, once you connect with your iPhone, it will connect to all your iCloud devices. So you can just switch between your devices like that. And then they announced 2 colors at the same time that they went on sale, which I found incredibly strange. It's just like you've delayed them for 3 or 4 months while you couldn't make them, and now all of a sudden they come in 2 extra colors. So they come in the black and white, which were announced with the iPhone 7, but they also come with in blue and gray now, which I quite like. The blue and gray is I'm a bit off gray now. After having had space gray devices for so long, it's kind of reached saturation point for me. But yeah, they cost 199 Australian dollars. So they are $30 cheaper than AirPods. They do have a wire, as I mentioned. And they have inline controls, which basically separate them from AirPods and in-ear. So yeah, I think that it would be cool to probably get my hands on a pair at some point. If you don't feel like looking a bit different wearing AirPods, or you like in-ears, you can grab them. They're not sweat resistant. So, if you are looking for exercise earphones, you're probably better off with Powerbeats 3. I have Powerbeats 2, so I can't justify just getting, the only difference between 2 and 3 is the W1 chip and battery life. So, oh yeah. And then the battery life on the Beats X is 6 hours, if I'm not mistaken. And then a 2-hour, fast fuel charge in 5 minutes. So they charge over Lightning, which is also convenient, given the fact that we all have so many Lightning cables.
And so for anyone that's wanting to know, aside from design differences, basically the lack of Siri being the major difference?
Well, yeah, they don't have double tap for Siri, but you can hold in the inline remote for Siri. So
yes,
there's that. And I know a lot of people were hoping that AirPods could have better inline controls, or better controls directly. So if you feel a bit limited with what AirPods can do, you can rather get these, because you could obviously skip songs, volume up, volume down, pause, play, even though you do have pause and play on AirPods just by taking them out. And then, of course, Siri if you hold in. So
basically, yeah, if there's anyone that's really wanting to get into the wireless earbuds, but they feel like they're going to be consistently worried about losing one, this could definitely be a good way to go.
Yeah, speaking about losing, as you mentioned, there is Find My AirPods coming out in 10.3, so that's one thing. But I know last time I said I don't really get the whole losing thing, because we should be able to look after our stuff. And then in the past 2 weeks, I've lost my Apple Pencil. So there's that. I wish there was a Find My Apple Pencil. No, I don't know. I think I dropped it on the ferry. So yeah, I'm pretty devo about that. It's $145. And
man, I'd be just swimming all through the harbour trying to find it.
I didn't really need to take it. I took it to work and I didn't really need to. I barely use it, and then charged it up, put it back in my bag, and then I just never found it again. So yeah,
gutted.
pretty devo.
This is the first I've heard of this, by the way. So ouch very much so.
Yeah, but while I might have lost a device, you might have gained one this week. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so I've never been more excited about a piece of metal before. So I bought a Park Slope, which is by a company called 12 South. A lot of people may know them for their premium Apple accessories. They're definitely one of the major third-party accessory makers that you can find in the Apple Store. So, what's this thing all about? Well, it's a hybrid stand, and I needed it for my MacBook Pro because I was just chasing, when I'm sitting at a table, wherever I want to put the laptop, I'm having it with the screen adjusted a bit higher and the keyboard set at an angle. It's just ergonomically a lot better. I found myself kind of getting a more neck aches than usual by looking down all the time. I have sort of a lower set table. So, prior to buying this stand, I was using a lever arch file, as Nick may have seen in a certain photo. So
yeah. You jumped what I was going to say there, because I was just going to say you really needed this.
Yeah, definitely.
I saw that you're using the lever arch file, and I get the pain. I like to keep using things the way they were intended to be used, all like natural and stuff, without any accessories. But this is really great. I've used laptop stands at work, and I think that they make a huge difference. So I certainly get the need, and given the fact that you're using a file.
Yes. Yeah. I think the worst bit about the file was that the side I was using on had the little metal bits for the lever arch on the inside. It had the caps on it, and the caps were useful because they were holding the laptop upwards. But if I made a slight shift and the laptop slid downwards, you'd hear a slight little scratch. I was like, stuff this file. I threw it. I was just like, got to get a proper stand. So yeah, got myself a Park set, which I knew of for a long time. I was tempted to get one with my previous MacBook Pro, but I never got around to it. But this time I found myself using the MacBook Pro a lot more often. So definitely worth getting one. So the hybrid factor, it can actually be used for an iPad Pro as well, like an easel. This is the 12.9 inch version though. The 9.7 would be that bit too small to reach the top of the stand. But yeah, so as I said, raises the screen to a more ergonomic eye level, angles the keyboard. With the iPad Pro factor, obviously better viewing angle for if you're drawing or note taking, but even things like, if you're recording in a GarageBand or something like that, or even performing live, it would be angled a bit more like a keyboard would be. And that angle is 18 degrees. So this isn't just limited to MacBook Pro. It suits pretty much any modern MacBook Air and everything, all the way from, the 12 inch up to the 17 inch models that existed. So it's a premium aluminium construction, which is really strong. The actual stand itself is nearly a kilo. So it definitely feels like, it does not feel like a cheap sort of plastic laptop stand, which, prior to finding out about this years ago, I was looking at alternative stands and I was just like, nah, it just felt too tacky, and this is perfectly aligned to the design of MacBook Pro. So yeah, it's mostly this aluminium construction, but has textured silicone rubber grips at the top and the bottom. Now the bottom grip has a cutaway, which aligns with that little cutaway at the front of a MacBook. So when you want to open the lid with your finger, there's no edge in the way. The coolest part is the top grip actually has 3 ridges on it. So first of all, this holds your MacBook in place, with how, and allows space for the lid to open. But it also, the top ridge acts as a place that you can put your Apple Pencil if you're using the 12.9 inch iPad Pro.
Sounds really useful.
Yeah, definitely. It looks really cool in the videos. Now, because it's an open bottom design, so the stand has a part at the bottom and a bit at the top that you place the MacBook or iPad Pro on top of, and then it's all just empty space, almost entirely beneath that. So great for airflow and cooling, so there's going to be no overheating there. And the back has a cutout for cable management, so you can feed your cable through. This is very much similar to how the iMac is designed. And it's existed in silver for a long time. I ordered that. Literally the day I received it, they announced the matte black version. But the silver one's great. But they're promoting the matte black version. They got a photo of the new space gray MacBook Pro on this matte black Park Slope next to the LG Ultrafine, like showing how, visually it all ties in this dark theme. But because of how space gray is, it's not quite black, it's not quite light silver, so the silver one still ties in, probably as much as the matte black one would. So yeah, how much does it cost? It's $69.95. I definitely think if you're thinking, oh yeah, who would, want to pay $70 just for a piece of, metal with a bit of rubber with no technology inside or anything? First of all, looks wise, it ties right in. Ergonomics, I almost don't think you can put a price on that. I mean, I'd rather pay for something that not only looks good, but is functional and will decrease, stuff like neck aches and such and eye strain, and even, the angle of typing. So I definitely think that's worth the money. Would 100% recommend it. The cheaper alternatives I just don't even get a look in nowadays. And, if anyone wants to see, I just took a few snaps of, my setup, on our social feed. So I'll announce those at the end. So yeah, definitely, if you find yourself doing a lot of laptop work on tables and stuff like that, I would, very much encourage you to go and get a Park Slope by 12 South.
Yeah, certainly sounds pretty cool. I've been, noticing when using my MacBook lately that my neck strains when I'm using it at the desk. So, I would definitely be keen to check that out. I would probably wait a while now that I don't have my Apple Pencil, but it definitely sounds pretty cool.
You just reminded me of that, and I just still can't believe that happened. But anyway. Okay, so we're going to move on to a new section called Unique New York. A bit of a tip-off to the Big Apple, and the unique factor being that this segment is about exclusive content by Apple. So just recently, if you haven't seen already, there are 2 trailers of new shows. One called Planet of the Apps, which we've mentioned previously, and then, of course, the expected Carpool Karaoke series. Now, both of these are exclusives to Apple Music. But, yeah, Planet of the Apps. So the trailer finally released. Do you want to tell us about this show, Nick?
Yeah, so they finished filming, I think, in January, and the trailer released this week. That was, I think it debuted at the Code Media Conference with Eddie Q, which we'll get into a bit later. But that was where it first came up. So I was actually surprised by the very first point that it's narrated by Zane Lowe. Well, not only narrated, but he is basically the host. He's like the Anton Deck in one. He is the Ryan Seacrest and whoever the Australian Idol guy was, but that's his role in this is basically to do that sort of hosting and chatting with the contestants. So they're 4, I guess, mentors, or judges. So it's kind of similar to The Voice, I guess, is the very, first thing. Parallel, it's like Voice meets Shark Tank, in one, and it's quite obviously that. So basically, the 4 people who are the mentors are Gwyneth Paltrow, will.i.am, Gary Vaynerchuk, and Jessica Alba. So, that's been slightly controversial, but yeah, they've been, over 10,000 applicants. So, certainly no shortage of app developers getting in on the action. So they also didn't have a region. Basically, you could apply from anywhere. So this was applicants from all over the world. They only selected 100 to feature in the show, and how they, from that one, all of those 100 would come down an escalator where they have 1 minute to do their pitch, and then once they reach the bottom, by then they had to have been, I guess, earmarked by a judge, the same way like when a judge on The Voice turns their chair around, I think is kind of how it works. And
I was glad to see no turning chairs in the trailer. So.
Yeah, that would be weird. But so from there, so this is basically all described in the trailer, and from there they'll have to select a judge if more than one is keen on them, or go with a judge that chose them, and then they'll go through an incubator period where they'll get help from developers from Uber, Yelp, and I think one other, but I'd never really heard of that app before.
I think that was the coolest part.
That is going to be really cool.
Yeah,
I think we had hoped that those mentors would be Apple employees, but I kind of do understand that they can't really I get that it's Apple's show, but I understand at the same time that they can't take employees off of like iOS 11 and pop them onto Planet of the Apps. And
yes, yep.
yeah, especially when you have apps like Music Memos, which has never gotten an update, or I think it's on 1.0.1. And then you've got other apps like Apple TV Remote on iPad Pro, which is not optimized. But so yeah, I'm glad that they're not using Apple employees. And they said it's going to launch in spring their time, so that'll be Southern Hemisphere autumn, but they didn't give a firm date. So could be either April or May. I'm guessing that they'll push it right before summer starts. Is kind of how Apple usually does it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I think is pretty cool is that it'll have its own app, so you can watch it through Apple Music on any of your devices, but it'll also have its own app where you can sort of, they called it rubber banding, which will basically be, if you can pause at any point. So say a developer comes on, for an app that you think is really cool, you can pause and go deeper into more content that's not shown on the show. So they say it'll be shown in what they call a linear format. So it'll be shown weekly, not Netflix style.
Yes.
Weekly.
Although Netflix style has become sort of weekly lately.
Yeah.
Like they're dropping episodes weekly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I guess, you won't be able to binge watch it. And you can go in and view like, extra content, which is pretty cool. It will be ad free, which wasn't really surprising to me at all. I didn't think that you'd have to pay for Apple Music and then
have ads. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's also on Apple Music, which got a lot of questions as to why at the Code Conference, which, yeah, what are your thoughts on it being on Apple Music before I get into that?
I think at first I was like, it just reminded me of iTunes, you know, how TV and movies, but under the iTunes name. And I guess I just sort of thought, well, they don't really have anywhere else to put it at the moment because Apple doesn't have their own streaming service. It sounds like that it will be able to work through the TV app because the TV app can read from Apple Music, but Australia doesn't have the TV app yet anyway. So, yeah, initially I was like, oh, they're going to get a bit of flack for that. A little bit confusing, but then, yeah, Eddie Q came back with a pretty good answer when he was asked about this. So, yeah, what did he say? Yeah,
so he said that Apple Music is about culture. So, I've spoken to a couple of people about this, and once that was sort of discussed, it's sort of like an aha moment, and yeah, I think the whole, having watched the backstory of how Apple got Planet of the Apps, it makes a lot of sense from their perspective on what they're aiming for Apple Music. So, Jimmy Iovine said that he's trying to make Apple Music about culture, which to me makes a lot of sense. Music is very culturally important. Apps are part of our culture these days. And so it's not surprising that it's in Apple Music. I don't really care about the whole music naming. If it's Apple's streaming service and that's where they want to put it, doesn't really, if they see it as, given that they have a clear vision that Apple Music is about culture and whatever that means, I'm happy with it.
Plus, I think if Apple do launch their own streaming, like video service, they'll make Planet of the Apps available on that as well. But, detecting your Apple Music subscription. So, or at least something like that. I think Apple Music really is the only place that they can put it right now. It's better than trying to sell it as a series on iTunes, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And it's more of a draw card to, get Apple Music subscribers, of which, Eddie said that they're well past 20 million. So that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, he didn't give an exact number on that, but said well past 20 million. So, and also said that they're the fastest growing music service, which we've said a couple of times, just crunching the numbers. So yeah, I'm really, really, really excited for Planet of the Apps. I could not be more excited. I just wish it was out already, and I'm pretty, I don't like surprises. Well, I do like surprises, but I always spoil things for myself. So I'm a bit, upset that I can't just binge it, but Oh yeah, it's going to be, I'm really keen. And I think for me, another thing that they discussed was really something I hadn't thought about, which is that you can instantly play and try out and download these apps that are shown right there, because they're actual apps by people on the App Store now. If they want to release them, they can obviously put their apps in the App Store, and it was just about taking it to the next level. So one other thing that I forgot to mention was after the incubator period where they get help from developers, they then get to pitch their apps to a VC firm, venture capital firm. Was it Lightspeed? I can't remember the exact name.
Yeah, something.
It's, I don't know.
I should remember it. I just recently watched the.
I've never heard of them before, but they're apparently really big in Silicon
really
Valley.
Massive,
so yeah, but
either way, they're kind of a big deal. So
I think they had pledged to invest 10 million in the show, or like in apps on the show, and ended up investing more than that. So whatever they had pledged, they actually were more impressed. So ended up going with more money, which I thought was pretty cool.
Right, so before I give just a few of my thoughts on it, what do you think about the harsh criticism from other sites, particularly like The Verge and that? They kind of just, a lot of people have just ripped this show based on the trailer. Like I had mixed reactions. I'll get into that very soon, but definitely not to that level.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I think there's a lot of Apple criticism around at the moment. So I think there's a natural negative stance on these things. If
it's like jump on the
Netflix
hype train.
had done it, I think if Netflix had done it, it would have just gone whatever and like not really paid much attention. I don't want to say I don't care about their opinion, but it doesn't sway my thoughts on the show at all. I'm super excited for it, and I just think that they're overreacting. I kind of, you had told me you had a mixed reaction, and I was surprised to hear that. So for me, I was just really excited. Michelle was really excited. She hadn't really seen anything about Planet of the Apps before. And so, we watched the trailer together and we're just like, well, this is really, really cool. Zane Lowe is quite, cool for me. I think The Verge mainly criticized, the judges, which I think is a little bit unfair, because you have to have some personality, right, to be a judge on these shows, and you have to be somewhat successful. So, in like a technology space. So Jessica Alba runs The Honest Company. So it's not just an actress in that sense, you know, she's the CEO of a company that makes decent money. So I think that's fair enough. Gary Vaynerchuk is a massive, he's massive in the marketing world, in branding and stuff like that. I don't know all of his talents, but I've heard of him before. He's really, really famous, in that space. will.i.am has, been playing with technology products for a long time, albeit I think not too successfully, but he's got some earphones out at the moment, and certainly knows what to pitch or what to look for in these things. So
plus he's in like direct contact with people like Jimmy Iovine and that.
Yeah, he was part of what made the show come to be at Apple. So if he's already in that space, I'm not surprised. And then you've got Gwyneth Paltrow, who runs, I think, like a lifestyle website now.
Jude.
You know, and apps are diverse. We're not only talking about Uber or Airbnb. You know, apps are diverse. One of the apps on the trailer was I think it was like AI to help you with shopping, to tell you when the best prices are and stuff like that. So, you know, someone like that could fit in, and she showed interest there. So why not?
Yeah, because that's like directly more of a lifestyle style app. So yeah, I'm definitely most looking forward to see the apps in the show, see the bit where they get to talk to other developers. That's the big draw card for me. So yeah, what happened is I hadn't even seen the trailer yet. It had just come out, and then Nick sent it to me and I watched it, and I was just like, oh yeah, I know, mixed feelings. And he's like, what? Like, I could tell you were excited about it. Why did I have that reaction? So I don't know. I was hoping for previously when Planet of the Apps was called like a reality show, I should have just had that expectation in my head, but I was thinking it might have more of those kind of like moody, artistic documentary style shots in it, and it wouldn't be so glitz commercial style like reality shows are. I definitely agree with the fact that, the judges have a certain level of credibility, and they don't all have to be tech CEOs and that sort of stuff. But I'm still not 100% on it, just because someone like will.i.am, I mean, he's been on The Voice, and as soon as I see him on another reality show, I couldn't shake that. I was just constantly thinking of The Voice, and I was expecting the chairs to spin around. And I certainly do, respect the fact that he has, involvement with technology, and he helped bring the show, which I found out afterwards, which is sort of like, it got me more excited about it. But just straight away, based on the trailer at the start, I was just like, not really sure about that. But when the trailer keeps going and they show the developers and they show us a bit more behind the scenes, I got a bit more excited about it. So, I guess I have reality show fatigue a bit. I mean, as anyone would know, down here, we get like Kitchen Rules just blasted on the TV all the time, followed by whatever, the next season of reality show is, or The Bachelor and that sort of stuff. And I know this is different to that. But I guess straight up, the design was, like you said, like Voice crossed Shark Tank. Now I do like Shark Tank, so that parallel I think is good. After hearing about how the show came to be in the Code Media Conference, it definitely got me more excited about it. So if you haven't listened or seen that interview yet, definitely check it out on YouTube or download the podcast. And I think it'll help you appreciate what went into the show and the thinking behind it. So I mixed reactions at first, but now I'm probably at like a 75-80% level of excitement for it. If you're 100%, I'm
certainly.
I definitely see it as a draw card for Apple Music. Like, I tried out Apple Music when it first came out, and then I didn't continue past the trial because I wasn't quite into music streaming at the time, very much more of a physical CD person. Then when the 808 documentary was announced, I thought, okay, I'll reactivate this subscription. And then I actually started using Apple Music, and I haven't left it. Like, I very much enjoy it, and I use it all the time now.
Have you checked out the weekly playlists, like the For You and You, like my new music and my favorites playlist? Have you seen those?
I haven't got as far as stuff like playlists or even recommendations. Like, I've just been using Apple Music for a band I really like, have just dropped their album and it's on Apple Music straight away. I'm like, sweet, I'll be able to download it. Listen, offline playback, great for us, particularly if I'm going for a walk because of lack of reception and stuff. And I've been using it in that sense. I know I haven't been using it to its full capacity, so I'm definitely keen to check out that sort of stuff.
When you start checking out more stuff, that would be the first thing that I recommend, because that sort of came out around iOS 10-ish or just after that, and it's been really, really cool. I get at least 2 new songs every week, but I do recommend using the like and dislike buttons just so that because for some reason Apple Music thought I liked like French rap and stuff, just because I have some South African or
doesn't everyone like French rap?
There was some crazy stuff on there, and yes, I did add the song to my library, and I don't know what single word is, but anyway, use the buttons. it will learn more about what you like, and gave me the latest songs from a band that I really like and that I didn't know was out because they're not like a really big band. So check it out on a complete side note. But while we're talking about music and Apple shows, this wasn't the only trailer released this week and information given. So what else has been happening?
Yeah, Carpool Karaoke. So we know it's been coming for a long time, and now we finally have the trailer for Carpool Karaoke on Apple Music. So it's landing in April, so they've given a definite month, half-an-hour episodes. Now, James Corden is the regular host of Carpool Karaoke, but he takes a backseat not literally, and features in only some of the episodes. So what you'll find is musicians and actors and stuff actually in the front seat as well, driving the vehicle, and sometimes James is in there, sometimes he's not. So people in the trailer that you see, like John Legend and Alicia Keys, it's sort of following along with Apple's tie-in with kind of like R&B artists and that type of stuff. I was very pleased, although I'm not their biggest fan, I was very pleased to see a band like Metallica in there, and even funnier that they were singing Rihanna.
That was hilarious.
Yeah,
absolutely
big juxtaposition
hilarious.
there. Seth MacFarlane, which was really cool to see, and he just has that like classic smug smile that and you can just picture him singing in Family Guy voices or something like that. Will Smith was great when they did Fresh Prince theme tune. John Cena, he's been popping up in a lot of more movies and stuff lately. He's a pretty funny guy, and they're with Shaquille O'Neal. So
yeah, funny pairing.
Oh yeah, definitely. At the start, these two just like solid guys crammed into this small car. That was pretty cool. Couple of my highlights from the trailer is Metallica are like in a shopping center in front of the butcher, and they kind of like shove the mic in his face, and they're all singing Enter Sandman together. That was pretty cool. And yeah, when Will Smith and James Corden doing I Believe I Can Fly in a helicopter. So they're taking it beyond the car. That was awesome. So what do you like about this?
Yeah, I think it'll just be a good 30-minute chill session, sit back and watch a bit of fun. So I'm just keen for that. Like, it's nothing too serious. It seems like it's going to be really entertaining. You will have James Corden in there. So there's that. Given that he's got a comedian background, he does tend to keep these things, going pretty well. But, the dynamic that they've got with the pairings, other than that, seem to work just fine. So I'm pretty excited to watch it. So as you say, John Cena, can be pretty funny. Seth MacFarlane, I think, is pretty funny too. It seemed like John Legend was also doing quite well. So I think it will be pretty good. I'm really excited. On the excitement scale, I watch a lot of Shark Tank YouTube videos, so I'm not surprised that I'm more excited for Planet of the Apps, but Carpool Karaoke is right up there.
Yeah, I had never seen Carpool before prior to that intro video for WWDC with Tim Cook, and I do admit that while I thought it was a great intro for that presentation, something different they'd never done before, it was a little bit awkward watching Tim Cook like singing at the top. Even though it's a perfectly natural thing that everyone does, like singing in the car. But yeah, that little factor I think maybe eased a bit if you're seeing musicians and stuff singing their stuff. But at the same time, that's what makes these things funny too. So yeah, I'm definitely keen to watch it. As you said, it's very digestible at half an hour length. So I'd imagine this is going to drop before Planet of the Apps. I hope they don't drop at the same time. I think they're going to stagger it that little bit. So, pretty excited about that. So we're going to move on to core focus. Now, this continues our conversation about Eddie Q. So all of this stuff was covered, these two exclusives were covered in the Code Media event. So what is Code Media, Nick?
Yeah, so Code Media is basically one of Recode's conferences. They have a few conferences, I think Recode, Decode. They used to run the D9 conferences, well, not D9, D conferences, when Walton and Karis Fisher were at All Things D, but since they started Recode, they basically all of Recode's conferences. So Code Media specifically focuses obviously on media. So that's why they had Eddie Q on, which would basically, and they had like a whole bunch of different, they had Facebook on there announcing some stuff, and they had a TV sort of box thing that puts together all of your streaming devices and presents them in one interface. So that's the kind of stuff you expect at Code Media, is just like everything to do with media. Yeah.
So also up there with Eddie Q, there was the main person sitting next to him was Propagate Content co-CEO Ben Silverman. So he's the brains behind Planet of the Apps, and he's been involved with and has brought shows like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and all that sort of reality stuff. So his reality game is strong, definitely. What I liked the best about this was how Eddie Q handled questions and delivered his responses. He was, questioned about things like, virtual reality and AR and all the usual stuff. And I think the way he responded was well in that he gave an answer. He didn't dodge around it too much, but then typically in Apple fashion, he didn't give anything away. So he sounded confident, very natural. It didn't sound overly scripted or anything, which was good to see. So, yeah, this is the first Code Media interview I've seen. I very much enjoyed listening to it. So what did you think of it?
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. So I watched it on YouTube, and so it's pretty easy to find on Recode's YouTube channel, and I downloaded it for offline viewing on the fateful ferry journey. So at least there was that while I was losing my pencil. And I really, really enjoyed it. It was a bit repetitive, and Peter Kafka, who did the interview, is quite a bit cheeky and pushy and sarcastic. And so if you don't really like that sense of humor, you might not enjoy that part of it. But if you're interested in hearing what, Apple in the form of Eddie has to say about these topics, it was definitely worthwhile, watching. And it's an hour long, but it flows quite well. So, and there are also questions from the audience. So
yeah, I've said I don't usually talk about what I think of, certain executives and stuff from Apple, although, it's very much a big interest between myself and Nick. And I had said, previously I haven't really taken to Eddie Q in the past when he's up there with WWDC. I find someone like Craig Federighi and that sort of presentation far more charismatic and draws you in. There was just something about Eddie Q that I didn't quite take to him. I very much liked what he was saying and the stuff he was presenting. And so initially I was like, okay, well, I was interested to see how he was off stage. Well, he's on a stage, but he's not presenting a product. He's just, it's this media interview. And I very much enjoyed it. I kind of had a bit of a new respect for him. Considering previously I'd just sort of based my opinion on how he was at the keynote events and stuff. So, definitely check it out. A couple of highlights. The fact that Planet of the Apps was actually being developed and being pitched to other major platforms and broadcasters before it even came to Apple's attention. So it was intended for TV initially. That was cool to find out. And the fact that will.i.am was actually the one that wanted to pitch it to Jimmy Iovine and Eddie. Apparently he had a meeting the next day, and then they ended up actually asking will.i.am, what else are you working on? And that's when he brought it up. And that's how Planet of the Apps has come to land on Apple Music. A big part that piqued my interest was Eddie was asked about podcasts. Why is there not enough love for podcasts from Apple? And Eddie said they're working on new features. So there has been a few people that were saying that it'd be awesome for Apple to create their own podcast producer program, their own app. That would be awesome, like an all-in-one. And of course, things like more stats and stuff from iTunes would be good. So, what else did you like in this interview?
Ben Silverman just basically saying that when they're getting all of this attention from the major broadcasters who wanted to pick up the show, they were kind of like, can we even do this show without Apple? So for them, it made a lot of sense to involve Apple, given they were like, you can't do American Idol without having Sony BMG having the contracts at the end. So a featured spot in Apple's App Store is obviously highly sought after, and so that was one of the reasons that they just really needed Apple on board. Overall, highlights for me was just during one of the audience questions, they asked Eddie about some future products. It's completely slipped my mind what it was now. Was this about the streaming service or... Anyway, it's not really important, but basically what Eddie Q said was that he's been at Apple for 27 years, and if he had to answer that question, or divulge future products that Apple's working on, he would not be there much longer. So that I found quite funny or entertaining the way to tackle it. And then I kind of, for the cringe factor, liked watching the dynamic between Eddie Q and Ben Silverman. So I think Apple likes Ben Silverman. They've worked with him before on some iTunes stuff. And so there is an existing relationship, and you've got him who was a CEO at one of America's broadcasters, I think it was ABC, and now the CEO of Propagate Content, as you mentioned, with a senior vice president who's obviously not CEO, so like not as high up in his own corporate ladder, but the dynamic is quite weird because Ben Silverman is obviously a lot more. He's not worried about what Apple really think of him, or like what they don't really have control over him. So he sort of answered some questions where he like got involved where I didn't really think that he was I just felt like Eddie was looking at him like, no, don't say any more. So that was pretty cool. Like, even as you mentioned, when they spoke about working on new features for podcast, he got involved. It's like, well, they are letting us keep all the profits. And I was like, that is completely taking it in a very different direction. I don't know. It was, so yeah, I mean, I think he's really obviously really smart when it comes to these things. He mentioned, they asked him, why now? Why is the show going to work now? Apps have been around since 2008 and reality shows since like 2001. So why hasn't someone done it? And then he basically said, well, now they're part of culture, was following up with what Eddie Q was saying about why it's on Apple Music, where he said it was around the 50th dinner conversation where they were speaking about new apps instead of what TV shows they were watching, that he realized that, this is something that's part of culture now. And then also what I found interesting was him saying that it's also more popular for the older generation. So it's more like there's no generation specific thing to apps now. Like everyone knows what an app is or uses an app. So that I think was also pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting to see, after hearing about all of this, what the success of Planet of the Apps will be. I know you and I are definitely going to stick out the whole series. So, yeah, it's just, this is the start for more exclusive content from Apple. So, Carpool Karaoke and Planet of the Apps are quite different. So, I'm definitely keen to see what they bring out next.
Yeah, the one thing I will just also highlight that I think Eddie basically said no to a streaming service that people are expecting Apple to introduce what's called like a skinny bundle, where you basically like choose, I'll have some ESPN and documentary channel, whatever, and kind of just pick and choose like that. And he's highlighted that he doesn't understand the skinny bundle and that there's so much good content out there, and he really focused on saying that don't overstate the demise of broadcasters and cable networks, and said, so what I expect Apple to do is more TV app style things where they curate and put forward the content and help it be easier to find. So if you are holding out for one of those deals really soon that put an Apple streaming service out there, I don't think it will happen soon. I especially don't think it will be worldwide soon. So expect more of what their current thing is, expect more of the TV app style stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I think when there was the rumors years ago about them doing their own streaming service, and then it didn't happen. And then it didn't happen the year after, I just kind of gave up on the idea. So, yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying there.
And they changed their mind, but he's basically sitting there saying he doesn't see why the skinny bundle. So, yeah, someone in his team might tell him this is why the skinny bundle, and then they try it. But, that I think was an important note.
And the last part in the core focus segment is Tim Cook. So what's he been doing lately?
Yeah, so he went for a bit of a whirlwind tour around Europe, but the main And on that tour, he met with Theresa May and the Mayor of London, but he also stopped by University of Glasgow to get an honorary doctorate of science and have a fireside chat with them after receiving that. So I thought that was pretty cool for his contribution to technology and stuff like that. So one thing which I think is core to what I'm starting to believe is that he said that coding should be a required subject in all schools, which I think is pretty good, and I'm on board with that. So yeah.
There's been, particularly over the last year with Australian elections and that topic has come up a lot more. I know certain parties have pushed that in their campaigns, that they want to bring coding to schools as a mandatory subject. So they've, as you said, like Tim said, they've outlined the importance of future job roles involving coding. So yeah, I can only think that this will be a good thing. All right, so something else that is sort of a good thing, but still a bone of contention. We've moved on to Deal Down Under. It is Apple Pay. The never-ending conversation about Apple Pay. So I've had a little bit of a progression here. If you bank with Macquarie Bank or ING Direct by the end of February, you should have Apple Pay. That has been confirmed. Okay, so now for the other banks, there's going to be a March court ruling regarding whether the Commonwealth Bank, NAB, and Westpac?
Yeah.
Can group together to negotiate with Apple. So this was previously rejected by the ACCC. Now, what's happened recently is they've changed the focus in their argument. So before it was about they wanted to lower the fees and gain access to the NFC chip. Now it's all about the access to the chip. So a spokesperson for the banks said it's about the consumer having a choice of multiple wallets. So there's been recently said that Aussie customers actually use Apple Pay more frequently than any other country. So, I mean, the figures are there, the want is there, people want Apple Pay, it's just this back and forth between the two. Something's got to give. I don't know. I mean, I know you've switched over. I know they've pointed out that a lot of people are switching banks to get Apple Pay. So where do you think this is going to go?
Yeah, I can't see that the ACCC can rule in favor of the banks. See, I see it as a bit of like they trying to collude in their negotiating, which I think is absolute rubbish, and they shouldn't be allowed to collude. And then I also think that they could also say that Apple's anti-competitive by not allowing them access to an NFC chip, but I don't see. In the same way that I don't see that they need to open an app store, make the app store open, or Google needs to take their services off Android, like referring to other court cases about them having anti-competitive positions. I don't see that they need to give the NFC chip. If the banks don't want to get on board, I'm kind of over it now. Switch banks if it means a lot to you. It's just like they don't pay attention to their customers. It's just ridiculous.
Still now, anytime I see Commonwealth Bank posts on social media, the majority of the comments are just like, yeah, I don't really care about your latest whatever update. Just give us Apple Pay. Like exactly. So many people, and the Commonwealth Bank, and I'm sure the other banks too, they reply to, a lot of these comments, and it's just like, come on, everyone is just hanging out.
What do they say to people who say, give us Apple Pay?
Oh, I think a lot of those get ignored.
Yeah, I thought so.
And they just reply to people that are commenting about what the actual post is about. So a bit of a headache for all of us, these major Mac users or Commonwealth customer like myself. So yeah, I still hold out a little bit of hope, but it's dwindling every time this continues. So
yeah.
Moving on to something a bit more exciting, Apple Verts. So there's been just more and more awesome, diverse Apple adverts out there. Particularly, I'm seeing them a lot on Facebook. So I'm going to start off with this one called Shot on iPhone 7. So, well, it's actually called One Night, but all of the footage in it has been taken with iPhone 7. So it's a minute long. It's a compilation of kind of like artistic nighttime shots, a lot of time lapses, no narration or anything. Just it's got this kind of like dramatic jazz playing in the background. It features submissions from many users worldwide, so you can actually see the little caption down the bottom as to what their name were, where they were from. And yeah, as I said, the type of shots and the music, it kind of gives this art gallery style dramatic feel to it. I think the best part about it is it demonstrates the improvements in low light performance on iPhone, considering they're pretty much all nighttime shots. So yeah, definitely check it out. I mean, Apple are doing more and more of these short adverts, which I think is really cool. So yeah, what do you think of this one?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. I am enjoying my iPhone 7 for photography. So, and I can also comment that the low light performance is really impressive. So I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Speaking of the iPhone 7 Plus, they rolled out a series of ads for that. So what are these ones about?
Yeah. So these are more ads focusing on portrait mode. So they 15 seconds each, and they're quite cool. So they all follow the same format, which is basically this voiceover guy, with two photos that have been taken on the iPhone 7 Plus, one using, the portrait mode which is basically like a depth effect, and then one without, and it's before and after kind of situation, and highlights how it enhances the photo. So there are 4 different ones: soulmate, creek, profile picture, and boyfriend. And basically, so in the soulmate one, it's like a picture of a person. So he'll go before, after, and he'll go housemate, soulmate, housemate, soulmate. And then the creek one is like fine art. So that's the one. And then my favorite one is actually, no, I don't know which one is my favorite, but one of my top tied first is a profile picture. It's like good picture. Does it say picture? Is like good picture, profile picture, or just good profile?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's just like good profile. And then, I actually think that one was pretty cool, just with like the profile picture. And it is pretty cool, would make a pretty good profile picture. And then there's the, boyfriend, and then boyfriend. It's like, kind of emphasizing the boyfriend. So it's like a guy who's your friend versus your boyfriend. So that was also pretty cool. But, my favorite advertising is all about the iPad Pro. So tell us what they're highlighting now.
Yeah, so this one actually features the same voice narrating it, also 15 seconds long, also 4 adverts. So the whole idea about this is it's a PC user, and they're holding up a big cardboard cutout of their tweet. So you can't actually see a person's face, but you can see them holding this cardboard cutout. And the tweet is read in the person's voice, and then the guy narrating replies with facts or features of the iPad Pro, and at the end, there's the usual funny twist at the end. Now, just before I read these out, these actually got a lot of dislikes on YouTube.
Really?
I'm assuming this. Yeah, if you go to the Apple YouTube channel, you will see that in some cases there's more dislikes than likes.
Oh wow.
I can only imagine this is from PC users just completely disagreeing with what's being said in the ad.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's one called No PC Viruses. And the tweet is like, my laptop has the nastiest virus and I'm terrified. And then it points out the iPad Pro doesn't get PC viruses. And at the very end, he's like, it doesn't get PC viruses. And it's like, you shouldn't be scared of anything. And it's like, except ghosts or whatever. And then she like screams.
Lamp flies at her. That is hilarious. I love that part. It's like, there's nothing to be afraid of except ghosts.
Yeah, that was it. And I wasn't expecting that, so I thought there was a good little twist on an Apple ad. There's one called Do More with Word. So this guy's like just asking, can you get Microsoft Word on Apple iPad? And it's like, yes, you can. And then, you can download it for the App Store, and the guy's like, word. Like, that was pretty funny.
Yeah, they keep saying word.
Yeah, it's just like the back and forth between the the narrator and the guy. There's one about this girl saying that she has slow Wi-Fi at home, so she's going to be, guess I'll be starting at the gym. She's got these two guys like working out next to her, so it's an awkward situation. This one pointing out the fact that it has LTE, so fast internet, and just saying that you can use it anywhere, like as in you have this iPad Pro. If you had an iPad Pro, you wouldn't have to be standing next to these two guys awkwardly in the gym. And the last one was called Better Than a Computer. So this guy, it's kind of like one of those, this guy bragging about, how much better his machine is than an iPad Pro.
Basically, one of the dislikers on the
YouTube channel, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, iPad Pro isn't even close to being a computer. And it's just like, the guy replies, he's like, yeah, you're right. Yeah. And he says, so the iPad Pro is actually a lot faster than, a lot of PCs and features a touch screen. And then he says to the guy, I guess you're kind of right. And then the guy completely disregards what has been said about the iPad Pro. He's like, yeah, I'm right. Like, it just really highlights that whole certain personalities that are brought out on Twitter and such and social platforms. So I thought these were pretty funny.
And they're all real tweets, which was pretty cool. The people in the show, in the ads aren't the actual people who tweeted them. They're all actors, but the tweets themselves come from real Twitter users, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
These ads, I like them quite a bit, and they remind me of the Mac vs. PC ads. Did you ever see those? They were like the mid 2000s.
They were shown when I first got into Apple. They were shown to be me by my design lecturer. She's like, you have to watch these ads, and they were like the best thing, sort of thing. And everyone was talking about them and sharing them and thinking they were funny. And then, of course, you had the retort adverts that were made unofficially by people saying that PCs were better than Macs and that sort of thing. I agree. They remind me of this because of that sort of back and forth, but also the way they were shot, just with the white background.
Absolutely. So check out these ads and also check out those Mac vs. PC ads. And then the last, and it's been like a massive week for Apple advertising. So I guess maybe they are doomed given the fact that they need to advertise so much. But the last ones, I guess, there's not too much to it. It's kind of these are best seen, but they are all focusing on Apple Watch. And then they came up on my Facebook too, and the hashtag and the theme is Close Your Rings. And so they've 15 seconds each, and they basically have the rings, the different color rings, the sort of like pinky red one for move, the green one for exercise, and the blue one for stand. And it's shot at like a high frame rate with this slow motion action happening inside each ring. So it's like a dancer kind of doing a jump through the rings, or or a swimmer diving through them. It's like, imagine the rings in a 3D space and them being maneuvered through, which is pretty cool. And then they have like two different themes, one which is the catch, swim, play, and then the dance, run, rock. So,
I thought these ones I just love the design of it with the real slow-mo action shots, and the fact that the ring wasn't just behind or on top of them, like the action was happening around them, and the translucent white before the color fills with the blur, it just reminds me of iOS design. So that's pretty cool. Heaps of adverts to check out. Go to the YouTube channel and give them a like, because the iPad Pro one's currently getting a bit hammered there. So just going to finish off real brief with some edible extras. There is an Education Pro apps bundle. I posted this on our social accounts. Huge saving there. But if you are a uni or TAFE student, or you've been accepted into uni or TAFE, or if you're any sort of education staff, awesome saving there. You can save $726. So it's definitely something to check out if you're into music or film. A Facebook TV app has been confirmed. There's basically a focus on video with personalization features, such as it'll show videos shared by friends or by pages, and live videos and recommended videos. So Facebook entering the Apple TV space there in a different way. And finally, Microsoft Office 2016 for Mac now has touch bar support. So I haven't tried this out yet, but I will before the next episode. I'm definitely keen for some more touch bar action. So yeah, that wraps up another episode of Apple Size. If you want to follow us, you can on Instagram or Facebook with Apple Size Podcast, on Twitter with @AppleSizeAU, and of course, rate on review on iTunes if you feel so. We definitely would appreciate that. And if you haven't subscribed already, just search Apple Size in the podcast app, Stitcher, TuneIn, or whatever podcast player you have. So yeah, any final thoughts there, Nick?
Just that if you want to support us, you can buy me a new Apple Pencil, and I'll be. Nah, I'm just kidding.
Start like a GoFundMe or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna start a GoFundMe, and feel free to support us there. But check out our social pages and Apple's new ads, and I'll definitely recommend watching the Recode Media interview with Eddie Q. So that's pretty much it.
Cool. All right. Great being having a talk to you. So I'll catch you in the next episode.
Yeah, catch you. Cheers.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.